Hello, and thank you for joining us on Weather Out West. I'm meteorologist Leah Pizzetti, and here's what we are tracking for you today. Thousands of people in Pacific Washington are evacuated overnight. That is because of a levee failure on the White River. This less than a day after another levee failed nearby. We'll take you to where those crews are rushing to now secure the second breached levee. Our team is in Seattle, where there were families told to leave immediately due to a flash flood warning because of that levee failure that was just issued in the city of Pacific.
From my window, look out, parking lot's underwater over the tires of the pickup truck.
This is what it looks like now. Okay, so we still see that flooding is there. This is all happening as the Pacific Northwest prepares for another soaking later today. Widespread rain is moving in, and regions in the Pacific Northwest have issued alert days. Our team of meteorologists are tracking the systems approaching. Today is Tuesday, December 16th, and welcome to Weather Out West, the hour-long show where we showcase what's happening weather-wise across the western United States. We will begin today in Seattle, where that failed levee has families rushing to evacuate. Seattle's Farah Jadran is near where repairs in the levee are taking place right now.
A lot of work still being done here in Pacific after the levee breach happening around midnight. A lot of sandbags are being brought to this area, all different sizes. Take a look at this video. This shows you where that breach happened. It just gushed out water pouring out of Pacific City Park, which is along the White River, into the road. And that park is sandbagged and closed off during the winter because of rainfall, snow, or any rising level of the river, but not to this magnitude has the flooding got to this point in breaching and going through that barrier. We did see all of the machinery coming through here, the big 5,000-pound sandbags being loaded up and taken in to start sort of that patch job at this point. We spoke to a lot of people that were woken up by a lot of chaos, a lot of noise, hearing alerts from their phones and a helicopter.
Open my window, look out, parking lot's underwater over the tires of the pickup truck at our neighbor house. And so I called 911, say, what do I do? And they came out with a boat, got us as far as they could, and we still had to walk through like ankle-deep water to get out here.
So we're here along 3rd Avenue South and Pacific Ave here. This area is blocked off. Hundreds of people, again, evacuated in a go now order. They're using nearby shelters and checking in with friends and family. This morning, though, so far, we haven't heard any reports of any fatalities and no injuries. And that is the good news here, though. A lot of damage to a lot of homes. In Pacific, Farah Jadran, King 5 News.
And again, 2,000 people in Pacific were evacuated because of the levee on the White River that failed. Many of them are at the senior center right now. Seattle's Drew Andre tells us how that has become an emergency shelter. Yep, let's get to our forecast right now. So we are going to take a look at the storms in the state of Washington. So this all comes after an atmospheric river last week. We brought you that information last week. We're seeing a second atmospheric river moving in, and that is having high impacts once again, because what we saw in the state of Washington is everything filled up. We saw rivers on the rise. We've seen debris flows shutting down major highways. That was last week. Now we're adding another storm on top of that. It's the cherry on top. It's the straw that breaks the camel's back. So we are seeing more flooding potential in the state of Washington. Here is a look at the flood warnings in place as of this Tuesday morning. So This is not as widespread as what we saw last week. Last week, the flooding potential in Washington was lit up. Basically most of Puget Sound was lime green, showing those rivers on the rise. As we head into the rest of this week, a couple rivers are on the rise, but they're also not expected to be quite as high as what we saw last week. So once again, that radar imagery from Tuesday morning showing rain is starting to move in, but this is just the beginning. We're going to see even more rain moving in later on tonight. So here is a look at that. We have some showers to start the day on Tuesday, but the first round of heavier rain is going to arrive by Tuesday afternoon. This is showing 4 p.m. and we're seeing a lot of the higher elevations in Washington suck up a lot of that precipitation. So the Olympics right along that coast, you see that orange color there and red. That is indicating the heavy rainfall over the Olympic Peninsula. And then we'll also see some of the heavier rainfall around the foothills and the Cascade Mountains as well. That rain increases into tonight. This is a look at 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday night. We see that moderate to heavy rainfall is picking up. And this is not just Washington. This is into Oregon as well. Portland, and then south of that, we are going to see heavy rain on Tuesday night. That is going to fuel a lot of those rivers rising, urban flooding concerns, and then also debris flow risk is a big concern in Washington and the Pacific Northwest. The ground is so saturated right now that that is certainly increasing that risk for debris flows, and that is something we're going to watch. Let's take a look forward into our overnight hours tonight. That precipitation continues, but notice that you see right smack dab in the middle of the state of Washington over the Cascade Mountain range, it transitions to snow. We still have that heavy precipitation, but we have cold air moving in Washington. That is going to lower snow levels, and that is going to open the door for snow potential in Washington and also into Oregon as well for our mountains. And this is great news because the snowpack is lacking in the Pacific Northwest. We have next to nothing because of this atmospheric river last week and because of a relatively warm last couple of weeks. We have not seen the snowpack that we need. And in addition to that, a lot of it, even if we do get snow falling, it has melted off. So this snow that we're going to see tonight is a great sign. We'll hold on to some snow chances through the day tomorrow. We'll keep a lot of the precipitation in the form of snow over the mountains. We will see some showers in the lowlands. So it's not a completely dry day, but we will get a little bit of a break. But then heavy rain moves in once again on Thursday. This is Thursday morning, and a lot of the heavier rain is going to be down south in Oregon. You see that heavy rain south of Portland, but we'll also increase some shower potential in Washington as well. But look at all that purple and blue. Yes, snow is finally back in the Pacific Northwest. That continues into Thursday night. Same thing, we'll keep a lot of the heavier rain south in Oregon, but we will continue to see great snow chances for the Cascade Passes. This is an amazing thing to see, especially because there is just not a lot of snow. Here is a look at Mount Rainier, Paradise, showing that we really just don't have a ton of snow falling. It looks like it's falling, it's kind of on the cusp of rain and snow right now, but we will continue to watch that snow potential build. Let's talk about flood potential in Washington, because this has been a big thing that we're keeping an eye on, is rivers on the rise. Last week when we were showing this graph in Washington, we were seeing that pretty much every river, we had dozens of rivers that were at major flood stage. That does continue for the Skagit River near Mount Vernon and Concrete. So we're watching that river at major flood stage, but you can see many of those rivers are not quite as high as what we were seeing last week. This orange and red indicating minor and moderate flooding. So yes, it does look like it'll keep staying elevated, the rivers, but not quite as bad as last week. And you should note, when you look at the dates, a lot of that flooding is expected for tomorrow and then into Thursday as well, before those rivers start to decline. Let's talk about snow. We see those snow levels in Washington decreasing into tomorrow, and then the rest of the week they'll stay relatively low. That is a great sign there. So we will finally get to build that snowpack. One more thing to note in Washington Washington is that it is going to be windy. Another wind advisory has been issued. This is for a good chunk of Puget Sound and also down to the south along that Oregon border. We're keeping an eye on strong wind, gusts in the 45 to 50 mile per hour range. And because of how saturated the ground is because of the rain, it is going to be much easier for trees to fall over. So a good thing to keep in mind in Washington, it is going to be windy. Washington and Seattle are going to stay in first alert mode through Wednesday because of this wet and windy weather and of course those lowering snow levels. So Washington will continue to keep an eye on that. Well, this flooding in Washington has officially turned deadly after a man died trying to drive through the floodwaters. Firefighters rushed to reports of a submerged car in Snohomish County. We're told a rescue swimmer pulled the driver, a 33-year-old man, out and performed CPR, but that man did not survive. Crews searched the vehicle and confirmed no one else was inside. They say the car left the roadway and entered a ditch that was in 6 feet of water. This is how high the water is on Marsh Road nearby, which is closed as of right now. So that is something we will continue to keep an eye on. We now want to go back to Drew Andre to tell us how a senior center in Pacific Washington has become an emergency shelter for the thousands of people who have to evacuate in that area.
Well, this is the place many people rushed to when they were told they had to evacuate their homes immediately. This parking lot's been full all morning, and we've been hearing the stories of a lot of people that have been impacted by this. One man in the evacuation zone shared these photos of his backyard. This was at around 2 a.m. River water seeped into the backyard, rising up against a shed and their home.
Got woken up around 2 something in the morning by my brother. Of course, trying to make sense of everything, kind of panicking, going back and forth. You hear the helicopter flying over. Level 3, evacuate now, flying over repeatedly. By that time, got up, went to my neighbor's house, let them know, and then of course you see the water rising up from the backyard.
The senior center was the first to open, but the city has now announced a few other shelter options, including Alpac Elementary, the Auburn Community Center, and in Algona, the Filipino American Community Building. Now, I've been in touch with King County's Marine Rescue Unit, and they said overnight there were no injuries. However, there were at least 4 different situations where they used their kayaks to help extract people, and they now have just been keeping an eye on things throughout the morning. Reporting in Pacific, I'm Drew Andre, King 5 News.
A similar series of events played out yesterday just miles away in Tukwila. A breach in the Green River levee triggered a flash flood warning and forced evacuations there. Seattle's Savannah Welch has the latest message from emergency officials.
Well, King County officials say it's safe for people to return to their homes, but people in the area are still asked to stay alert, be informed, and are also under a level 1 be ready notice. That was as of this morning. The levee breach on the Green River triggered a flash flood warning that threatened more than 46,000 people. Warnings went out for Kent, Renton, and Tukwila. This was along the east side of the Green River near South Todd Boulevard. Crews spent hours containing it with heavy HESCO sandbags and stopping the flow of water. Officials stressed the repair is only temporary, and they're continuing to closely monitor river levels and weather conditions. We spoke with several people whose home in Tukwila flooded on Monday, even before the levee breach.
We lost everything we had, which wasn't much anyway, but we don't have anything now. And it's Christmas time, and it's like, I think we'll be okay.
Officials say the county has been watching river flooding even before this last week's storms and taking steps to prevent major issues along the Green River. They've been moving forward with the Lower Green River Corridor Flood Hazard Plan. It aims to reduce flood risks through parts of Auburn, Kent, SeaTac, Renton, and Tukwila. The last planning committee meeting was back on October 15th, where officials shared updates and next steps. Also, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in Seattle is working with King County officials to assess damage and plan next steps for a permanent fix on this levee that ruptured yesterday. King County officials say several other levees across the area have been damaged and more repairs are expected. The Green River levee, the one that was damaged yesterday on Monday, had damage from 2020 storms, which is why it was weakened. Officials are also keeping a close eye on other levees along the Green River that also suffered storm damage from 2020. Those include the Fort Dent levee and Kent Airport levee as well. Savannah Welch, King 5 News.
Let's go north of that now in Skagit County. Go now evacuations are back in effect for a stretch of homes in the small town of Concrete. City officials say the continuing rainfall could worsen a landslide discovered there last week.
When we heard it, I'm like, when is it going to hit my house? We could hear this rumbling sound. We didn't know what it was.
But debris flows are just one concern in Concrete. As of this morning, the Skagit River is back on the rise and is expected to crest at major flood stage tomorrow morning. However, it won't be as high as last week's crest of more than 41 feet. Right now, it's forecast to crest at 35 feet. To help affected families, a new Red Cross shelter is now open in the town of Concrete. It's at Mount Baker Presbyterian Church on Main Street. Pets are welcome there. We're going to take a break, but after the break, we stay in the Pacific Northwest, where other regions as well are also under weather impact alerts. Those forecasts are next. Wind is the big story in Washington, both in Western Washington and Eastern Washington as well. We want to go to Thomas Patrick in Spokane right now, who is tracking the strong wind on the eastern side of the state.
I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick in Spokane, Washington. We will be dealing with windstorm impacts in the next 2 days, and now high wind warnings have been issued all throughout the inland Northwest. Not going to lie, I think this could be one of our most impactful weather events of all of 2025. I don't remember anything terribly extreme in terms of winter storms or summer heat, but this windstorm may very well be one of our biggest weather events of the entire year. And of course, we've been feeling the impacts of the atmospheric river last week. We'll have one last heavy push for the first part of this week. So these high wind warnings go from 10 p.m. tonight to 4 p.m. Wednesday afternoon. So this is really more a overnight event as well as Wednesday morning. And with wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour, that is significant for the region. So everybody needs to be prepared for power outages and tree damage across the region. That is going to be some quite heavy wind as it builds during the day. And it will be a breezy afternoon ahead of us for Tuesday. 25 to 40 mile per hour winds right through the mid of the Columbia Basin in eastern Washington. And watch as the map just lights up. It goes full purple. This maxes out our contouring, which goes to 45 miles per hour. And there certainly will be embedded 60 to 70 mile per hour winds looking likely throughout the inland Northwest. So that's why we have the high wind warnings for these maximum wind speeds. Now for Wednesday afternoon, we'll see it start to slow down, but again, another very, very windy day, even afternoon, even after the windstorm is beyond us. So it's a kind of a two-part weather combination between the atmospheric river itself, once again surging towards the west coast, but we are more concerned about the low pressure core itself because it is mobile and it will move through this classic positioning through lower British Columbia, and that just forces all of the strong winds right through the inland Northwest. So we are in a classic windstorm positioning, and that is going to lead us into all of the impacts that we would normally see for windstorms. Wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour, power outages likely tonight and Wednesday morning. Tree damage likely, and that means at that wind speed, full trees can get uprooted, and that's what's going to cause a significant portion of the damage that we'll ultimately see tonight. For rainfall, because of the speed of the system, we actually don't see a ton of rain for the inland Northwest. Rain beginning at around 7 to 8 o'clock tonight. Heaviest overnight before 5 a.m. And just as those strongest winds start to hit, it actually pushes the rain out of the region. So I think we'll have bursts of heavy rain. It's actually possible you even hear maybe a clap of thunder just because of the strength of the system. But noticing on Wednesday, the winds are so strong, it actually clears out the sky. It's going to be a sunny day on Wednesday, just not a pleasant one because of those high winds. Meanwhile, the snow returns to the mountains. The Cascades will have winter storm warnings today and tomorrow. 10 to 15 inches of snow just the next 2 days. That is for the mountain passes like Snoqualmie. It's going to be measured in feet of snow between the end of the week. So the high heat will finally be over for December. High of 51 degrees today, and then just 40s and 30s the rest of the week while we deal with the high winds.
A lot going on in the Pacific Northwest, and Oregon is not immune to that. Meteorologist Rod Hill is in Portland, keeping an eye on the wind, the rain, and all of the same in Oregon as well. Rod?
From the Rose City, I'm meteorologist Rod Hill, and we are talking rain, we're talking wind, we're talking watch warnings all over the state of Oregon. Most of these are for wind. The rain, the green rather, is a flood watch. This is for Thursday and Friday, and that's our next atmospheric river flow, where we will have hours of just steady rain for at least a good 36 hours, it looks like, moving in. Now, let's back up, because during the day today, we're actually pretty nice. Just a light shower scattered about, not much wind. Could be looking at record temperatures up to about 60 degrees again today. So our next weather event is a front that comes in overnight tonight around midnight. And with that front, we have a wind warning at the coast tonight. Could be some 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. This shows behind the front west winds gusting to 50. No advisories for wind in the Willamette Valley tonight, but noticeable winds. It shows a 43-mile-per-hour wind gust in Salem. And there are warnings overnight tonight into Friday morning for parts of the East Gorge of Columbia Basin, where winds will be gusty. This shows the winds not too bad tomorrow morning, mainly to about 40-45 miles per hour. So we're watching that. Again, that's with our next front overnight tonight, but it's through by tomorrow morning. So how much rain do we get just overnight tonight while most of us are sleeping? This shows a half to about 3/4 of an inch of rain up into Portland. And then I'm going to tack on Thursday, Friday. We just have some scattered showers Wednesday, not much. So most of these totals then moving forward will be added on the atmospheric river rains on Thursday and Friday. And notice the models this time around show heavier rain south of Portland, 4 inches in Corvallis, less to the north, Kelso 1.39. Expecting Portland to get a Thursday, Friday combo, at least 1.5 inches to maybe 2 inches. Rivers are already running high. The flood watch is up. We are expecting at least some of our rivers to go back above flood stage as early as Thursday night, certainly into Friday. Back up Futurecast, again, a nice day today. Not much rain around. We're 60 degrees. Here's the evening rain coming in. There's the heavy rain that literally blows through by first thing tomorrow morning. We get behind the front tonight, snow levels where you see the blue dipping down to about 3,000 feet. Tough to tell if there's enough snow here tomorrow morning for some issues or not, but we'll keep an eye on that. Here is the snow level still below Cascade Passes Thursday morning as the rain starts to move in. And then during the day, that snow level goes back to 7,000 feet. Everything turns back to rain over the Cascades, and the yellow-orange colors, not only steady rain, but moderate to heavy rain, perhaps more than not, during the day Thursday into Thursday night with that flood watch. Now, we've had some showers this morning, but overall it's pretty quiet out. You see some raindrops from our Springs at the Waterfront Vancouver camera looking at the Columbia River. There's a dry look at this hour looking across the Willamette at downtown Portland, and the look at no snow on the ground up at Timberline Lodge. But again, they are expecting some snow overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. Afternoon temperatures on this Tuesday, upper 50s to about 60 along the coast, the valley, central Oregon, and then 40s to low 50s out east. It will be a dry day, central and eastern areas. 7-day forecast for you. Here we go. 60 today in red. The impact alert just for the overnight hours tonight for that front coming through with heavy rain and wind. Scattered showers, much cooler tomorrow, 48. Then we get back into what is the next big rain event, Thursday and Friday. Could be some flooding with our area rivers. Saturday, that's out of here, but we'll still see scattered showers. Looks like rain picks up on Sunday and Monday.
Thank you, Rod. Yes, the Pacific Northwest is staying at the forefront of all forecasts, national included. So we'll continue to keep our eyes there. And we're not done yet. When we come back, we are going to stick in the Northwest with our forecast from Boise, and then we'll venture farther south. Welcome back. Let's go to Idaho now. There's a little bit of a calm before a storm that is moving in, bringing wet and windy weather to Idaho. Hector Mendoza has more on the first alert days issued starting tomorrow.
Well, we have a lot happening here for today as we do have wind, rain, and snow that is going to be in the forecast all for tomorrow, as we're going to see a cold front that's really going to start to kickstart a lot of that impactful weather that will continue here through Friday. Now, that active weather looks to continue all the way through the weekend and could possibly extend on in through Monday and Tuesday of next week. But again, the biggest impacts we're going to see are going to be Wednesday all the way through Friday. So as we zoom on just a little bit closer, we have lots of colors here on our watches and warnings map, but the biggest biggest one we're going to be focusing on is lots of wind here as we look here through the Treasure Valley and across all of southwest Idaho. Everything in this 10 is going to be a wind advisory, so lots of spots in the upper Treasure Valley, down into the western Magic Valley, including places in southeast Oregon. Could see a possibility of wind gusts reaching 55 miles an hour here through tomorrow. We can also see a high wind watch that is in place for lots of spots there through the mountains. That includes the Central Mountains and portions of the eastern Magic Valley and continue on into the east. That will see a possibility of some wind gusts getting up to 65 miles an hour. So we're getting into damaging territory as we continue on here through our Wednesday. And those gusty conditions look to continue there through Thursday and Friday. So again, we're going to start to see rounds of valley rain, mountain rain and snow, as we are going to see a lot of these snow levels start to fluctuate a little bit. So that'll cause for concern in terms of rock slide risks here into the next couple of days, especially on some of the steeper terrain. And the strong wind gusts are also going to be something that'll impact visibility in portions of the mountains that'll see heavy amounts of snow. So the biggest thing to really consider is going to be securing indoor items, especially as we're getting towards the holiday, as lots of folks have already installed and put up a lot of their holiday decorations. So keeping that in mind, planning for a messy mountain drive. And of course, if you want to check in on some of the travel conditions and what the road conditions look like, depending on where you're going here for this week, 511.idaho.gov is going to be very important. So looking here at this futurecast and looking at the timing, it's not till tonight and through very early on into midnight for tomorrow that we're going to start to see some of those showers make their way through. A possibility of a burst of some heavy rain comes along through portions of the Treasure Valley. That continues all the way in through the morning, but we'll start to see a little bit less of that here as we get towards 10 o'clock tomorrow. We'll start to see some of these winds really start to pick up here as we get towards the afternoon. We get a brief break from some of the wet weather as we get towards the rest of our Wednesday. But once we hit Thursday, we'll start to see some of these snow levels drop as the next front comes in, and that'll spark some of those snow showers across many of the low valleys. Not expecting too much accumulation, but a light dusting of snow. Then that changes over on into rain as we do have warmer air coming in, and that's going to increase some of the snow levels, and that's what's going to keep a lot of the snow accumulation above 6,500 feet. And then we'll continue this wet and active weather here as we get towards our Friday, Saturday, and into our Sunday. And as we look at some of the potentials, as we look on ahead here through Wednesday, we do see a chance of anywhere between 6 to 10 inches of snow as we continue on in through Friday. And then we're going to start to see a little bit more of that light dusting here through Thursday. But these are going to be some of the causes for concern there for mountain travel this week. Low visibility, a chance for those rock and mudslides. And again, if you're driving a high profile vehicle, winds could definitely impact that commute. Now, as we look at the 7-day forecast, we are going to continue to see abnormally warm temperatures here for our December. But again, we're going to see a lot of that wet weather coming along through Friday, with it continuing towards the middle of next week.
Thank you, Hector. A lot is going on in the Northwest, and we will continue to track that. Don't go anywhere. The Pacific Northwest is not the only region with weather warnings. Denver has some of their own as well. The forecast from Colorado is coming up next. All right, let's take a break from the Northwest. It has been unusually warm in Denver these past few days, but now they're expecting strong wind and an elevated fire risk as well. Kathy Sabin and Katie Lassell have more from Denver.
Hello from Denver, Colorado. I'm 9 News Weather Impact Team Chief Meteorologist Kathy Sabin. We have been enjoying a very strange but very beautiful fall. We've had amazing color in the sky at sunrise and sunset. We've seen viewer pictures come in with color from pink to purple to orange to red. It's been amazing. But we're way too warm and dry. This dominant ridge refuses to break down, so the storm track is north of us, sending a series of weather systems into the Pacific Northwest, record flooding. Into the Midwest, snow and record cold. Into the Northeast, big travel impact. Until this ridge breaks down, no hope of seeing any beneficial moisture for the state. But there is a weak weather system that we are tracking that's coming in from the northwest on Wednesday that may bring a little mountain snow. Not enough that we have advisories for travel. And unfortunately, what it will bring to the Front Range and foothills is wind, a lot of wind. And that's not something we need to see when it's been so warm and so dry and temperatures have been above average. So Wednesday is the windy day. Elevated fire danger. Fire weather watch covers the Front Range and Denver. High wind watch for gusts over 70 miles per hour. We call that dangerous and damaging. And everybody ties down their patio furniture and all the small things around the house, including garbage cans, because they'll be in Kansas by the next morning. And you see these waves of clouds that come in, not a lot of moisture with it, with the exception of a brief little chance of snow from Steamboat down to Aspen and Vail. Maybe we get 2 waves of snow on Wednesday and Thursday. Wow, do we need the moisture. Not enough, though, that we have any advisories for travel, but 1 to 4 inches of snow, we'll take that. We start in the 30s, warm to the 60s today. Again, 20 degrees above average. We are windy and warm on Wednesday, cooler Thursday, and then a beautiful string of days heading into the upcoming weekend. On Sunday, it is the winter solstice at about 8:03 in the morning here. So we welcome in winter with sunshine and 56 degrees.
I'm 9 News Weather Impact Team's Katie LaSalle. The National Weather Service has issued a red flag warning for a big portion of Colorado, our I-25 corridor, the southeastern plains, all areas shaded here in red, starting at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Gusty winds from the west sustained around 20 to 40 miles per hour, gusts upwards of 80 miles per hour. Low relative humidity, that is in effect through the day tomorrow. So on this Tuesday, December 16th, I want to talk about what constitutes and makes up a red flag warning. It is based on wind and humidity. So we're expecting to see dry conditions, low relative humidity, but winds sustained at 15 miles per hour or more for several hours is what really it is based on. Also, at around 25 to 15 miles percentage of relative humidity here in town. That is why tomorrow we are really going to be seeing those critical fire conditions. Also, 10 hours of fuel at 8% or less, really meaning dry vegetation. Here across Colorado, we haven't seen a lot of precipitation and definitely more than 8 hours or so of that in Denver and over the metro area. West into the mountains, we did see some significant snow a couple of weekends ago, but with the snow on the ground, less about high fire danger, more high winds. So we're watching this front. It'll impact our state for tomorrow. Our snowpack continues to diminish. We could definitely use some more precipitation. Our northern and central mountains are bracing for some snowfall, but this system, it's a ridge of high pressure and this trough moving in. It'll really impact our northern mountains, the northeastern plains, and here for the Denver area, bringing in some mountain snow, but the wind event is what we're bracing for tomorrow. That is Wednesday, December 17th. So our 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, we've also seen some very warm conditions. On average, we typically see highs in town in the low 40s. We have seen 8 consecutive days of highs in the 60s. It'll be 9 for tomorrow. We've issued a weather impact alert because of those high winds, high fire danger, and then for Thursday, some cooler air, mountain showers, calmer winds. And as we get into the end of the week and weekend, we could really use some more precipitation here for the metro area. At least we're going to be picking up some snowfall for tomorrow into the mountains, but mild as we get through the next few days, even heading into the holiday.
Well, it's a completely different story in Phoenix. Meteorologist Ginger Jeffries is in Arizona right now, tracking the very comfortable weather they are feeling in the desert.
I'm meteorologist Ginger Jeffries. A look at your weather out west across Arizona, where we have seen some record-breaking temperatures. I kind of paused before I say heat, simply because, I mean, my goodness, for 70s and 80s, for that to be record-worthy, in my book, it is still the comfort zone. We don't concern ourselves with those heat records until we get closer to April and May, when we're really seeing numbers in the upper 90s and low 100s for record territory. Until that time, my goodness, just enjoy this. Look at this. Here's one of our 12 News weather watchers sending in from Buckeye. So that's the east side of the region. And she called it Tangerine Dreams. Yep, I love it. All the rich hues in the skies, all courtesy of those thin clouds, those mid-level clouds that kind of entered into the mix over the weekend, hung out on Monday, but now getting blasted away, courtesy of some stronger winds in Bullhead City. Now, we'll still see a couple thin clouds from Havasu into Kingman. Unfortunately, these clouds are not an indicator that we have much of a changeup instead. We are going to stay the course of perfection. That means low 60s in the higher elevations, upper 70s overhead here in Phoenix, and we should still see some 80s today, about 81 in Yuma. But you know what? I did a little snooping around in the history books, and I found this. On this date in history, can you believe this? San Francisco Peaks, we recorded a 115-mile-an-hour wind gust. Wow, that's a Cat 3 hurricane wind strength, and sustained winds were at 70 miles an hour. That's all because we had this very vigorous low pressure system moving through to the north. As you take a look at these conditions though for the next 7 days, clearly we don't have any kind of strong wind event or even winter type weather event. Instead, we're seeing low 60s across the board in the mountains, and even here in the valley, we're enjoying a few days in the 70s, but we're going to pop those numbers right up to 80 degrees once again on Friday, which again is not going to be a record for us, but it is still above the normal range. This is all setting up though for a nice little change up early to middle part of next week. We'll start to see those temperatures come down, and we've got an opportunity at rainfall right now, only about a 20%. But remember, warm air precedes a cold front, and I do expect that cold front to be overhead next week. Until that time, we did it. Snapped our record yesterday as advertised, got up to 81 degrees. Now, I say we're done with the records this week, even though we're not done with the 80s, simply because, yeah, we've got some healthy records. I think over the weekend, certainly yesterday, when our records are in the upper 70s, those are certainly within striking distance, especially when we have high pressure in charge. As far as any records in the higher elevations today, I'd say the best bet would be Page. The forecast is 53 and the record is 55. But again, all in all, we're above normal. It just doesn't look like record territory. And we're going to stay this way at least for about the next 6 to 7 days. And then the long range forecast reveals that, yeah, that's that moisture element that I'm expecting to come into play toward the latter part of next week. And right now, snow chances, okay, I'll keep my eye on it for now. Right now, it still looks like it's going to be a little too warm for snow, but certainly some precipitation value is coming our direction. So look for those temperatures to pop right before the cold front rolls in. And again, that'll be toward the middle part of next week.
Thank you, Ginger. We're going to take another break, but after the break, we are heading to California. We do have rain chances moving into the Golden State. Our meteorologists in California will track the latest after the break. Welcome back. Let's head to California. We will start in Northern California. Meteorologist Monica Woods is in Sacramento watching temperatures on the rise and rain chances that come and go this week. Here's meteorologist Monica Woods.
I'm meteorologist Monica Woods, and we have a couple more days of the same weather before we really start to see a significant pattern shift. It will mean more rain in the valley, some high elevation snow initially, but then that snow level starts to drop just in time for the holiday week, and also, believe it or not, slightly warmer weather. Even though we're going to see some rain for the valley, we're going to bump up those temperatures. In the meantime, some patchy fog for the coast, gray skies and cool for the valley. For the foothills, mostly sunny. And then for the Sierra, we're still dry, but things are about to change again. Precipitation statewide still looking pretty good. This was really set forth by a soggy November. It's just at this point, we really need to get things going once again. December is one of the 3 months that provides 50% of our annual precipitation. So December, January, and February, we got to get that rain and snow coming in because it really does account for a bulk of the precipitation that comes in through California. So since October 1st, again, we're really looking pretty good with most areas above average. In fact, Santa Barbara almost 7 inches above average. But when you look at the northern part of the state, that's where we're really hurting because in general, we have a much higher annual precipitation on average for places like Redding and Eureka. And it is also the location where we have our biggest reservoirs to store that water. That's why this time of year is so critical, especially for Northern California. Looking at our future cast, things are about to change. So once we get into our Tuesday afternoon, we see bands of rain starting to pick up as the storm track sinks its way southward. What you'll also notice, though, is that it's largely a rain event for the Sierra. We'll see periods of high elevation snow, but we're going to see this as a warmer rain event that's coming in in before we start to see some colder air work its way in deeper into the work week, and then for the upcoming weekend. That will really provide the opportunity for some snow to accumulate for the higher elevations. But again, in the meantime, this is going to be a higher elevation snow event until we get into the weekend. Then we start to see the snow picking up. We've got multiple systems in the pipeline to really provide us with some wet weather and snowy weather throughout Northern California. Did want to put this out there, though, given the timeline, it does mean we could see some messy travel leading up to the holiday week. So we'll very closely monitor how things are playing out with that snow line. Highs in the meantime for our Tuesday are in the 50s for the high country. Moving down the hill, we're in the upper 50s to right around 60 degrees. For the Central Sierra, highs are going to stay in the 60s, move in towards the valley. We're close to 50 throughout the central San Joaquin Valley. Central Coast still looking pretty good here. Big Sur up to 76 degrees. Inland areas, at least just inland, we're right around 70. Now, once we move deeper into the valley, we're still dealing with areas of gray cloudiness, the low clouds that are just hanging in there, and highs in the 40s and low 50s. Bay Area forecast, we're in the 50s and 60s. Head inland, we're in the 50s for our Tuesday. Once we get to the northwest coast, that's where we start to see areas of rain developing. Highs near 60 along the northwest coast. On the north end of the valley, we're going to be still in the 40s, but changes are coming. Capital region, we're in the upper 40s to right around the low 50s. We've had almost 23, 24 days where temperatures have not really risen much because of the gray cloudiness that have pretty much blanketed much of the region. But those changes are coming as we look at that extended forecast. Periods of rain pretty much on and off through the next 10 days once we get into the weekend.
And let's head down to Southern California now. We have saved the best for last. Meteorologist Evan Narani is in San Diego tracking the sunshine.
Hey there, good morning everyone. I'm meteorologist Evan Narani in sunny San Diego, and the sun has been a little bit of something we're waiting to see out by the immediate coastline. That's because fog has been prevailing. But from our mountain cameras, we've noticed that that fog is quickly deteriorating. From east to west, we're seeing that clearing occur. Earlier this morning, we had a dense fog advisory. It stayed in effect until 9 a.m., but since about 7, we've started to see that progressive clearing. Prior to 7, from Mount San Miguel, for example, we had those clouds hugging even the western slopes of the mountains, but it was a quick pull back of that marine layer, and it will continue to be through the rest of the day. We do expect fog to be another issue tomorrow morning, but it's been, again, an issue mainly affecting our immediate coastline. It's keeping our temperatures along the coast more mild, back down toward average, but everywhere east of the coast, and in fact, the farther east you go, the warmer we've been getting over the last couple of days. Yesterday, we broke a record out in Borrego, pretty much as far east from the coast that you can get while staying in San Diego County. That previous record was from 1977. Now 2025, seeing that daily heat record broken to 83 degrees in Borrego. Palm Springs got to 89 degrees. That was a 1980 record. So just goes to show that this ridge of high pressure is really having its effect on us. All of the wet weather that we've seen in the forecast and the greater big picture across the national map seems to travel over the top of that ridge, landing in Oregon, Washington, and passing down on the backside as well. But as that ridge stays in place, while it doesn't necessarily block us out from cloud development, it does block us out from a lot of those storms and a lot of the wet weather that is in the future forecast. As far as your high temperatures go, you can see that sliver of green right by the immediate coast as onshore flow prevails, and as temperatures stay in the 60s, 66 is right around average for a lot of our coastal communities. So it's this dichotomy of seeing coastal communities right around average, whereas our eastern valleys are 10, 15 degrees warmer than average, all the way up to 80 in Ramona and Campo this afternoon. Borrego Springs warming up to 84. That's more summer-like than winter-like we're headed toward. But we do have the possibility of some wet weather in our future. Not necessarily the immediate future, but there's already talk circulating about what those models look like going into Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. I will say, with 8 to 10 days to go before that storm actually makes its arrival, it's really too soon for us to be able to give many specifics. But what we can say is that it seems like by the time we get to the beginning and middle of next week, we'll start to see a dip in the jet stream. Temperatures will cool down, we'll get toward cloudier skies, and maybe see some of that wet weather transpire. But again, too far out for us to be able to say what beyond the next 7 days looks like. In the meantime, enjoy this 7-day forecast. Dry skies day over day. We do have a weather impact alert simply because of the dense fog that we've been noticing along the coast today and tomorrow. Might lead to some hazardous driving conditions. You do want to slow your speeds down as visibility has been below half a mile in many cases. And we've even noticed some drizzle out there. Inland, it clears quickly. We get to the low 80s by Thursday. Might have a brief stretch of Santa Ana's for Thursday and Friday. That'll help to give us a little bit of a boost in temperatures. Temperatures will start to slide by the weekend and cloud cover will increase too. Remember, late night, early morning hours, it's been chilly. Grab a coat. It's been helping people out tremendously in the overnight stretch. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Evan. Before we let you go, first, let's talk about a prediction on whether you will get a white Christmas this year. That's coming up next. Welcome back. Finally today, it has been a pretty cold and snowy couple of weeks in the northern tier of the United States since Thanksgiving. But those hoping for a white Christmas may be a little disappointed. A white Christmas is when at least 1 inch of snow is on the ground on the morning of December 25th. That's according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. A lot of northern states have been covered with snow recently, but a large area of the United States is now expected to be warmer than average for the rest of December, except the far northern tier. Milder temperatures will melt some of the snow on the ground in the Midwest and the Northeast. But as we know, on the West Coast, not many of us are typically blessed with a white Christmas, except of course our mountains. That's where we have to go to find the white Christmas. Well, thanks so much for spending the last hour with me. I'm meteorologist Leah Pizzetti. We will be back here tomorrow, same time, same place. I hope you have a great rest of your day.